Hello, everyone. Michael Pugliese here with Circadia, and today I am so excited to be bringing you an incredible panel for our Wednesday webinar entitled The Comeback, and we're going to be covering a lot of information, quite a bit of it. The topic that's on everybody's mind is when we're ready to get back to work. In so many ways, how do we get back to work? And I'm joined by an incredible panel today with a wealth of knowledge and experience in so many different facets and areas of our industry. My very good friend Hannah from Well Products is going to be moderating our panel today, and in getting together with this great team and this wonderful collaboration, we found that there was so much information that we wanted to be able to offer to everyone that's been tuning in, not just a part one, but a part two. So today we're going to be covering quite a bit, but we found that there was some certifications and also even some protocols that were missing from some of the resources that we were able to pull. So by Friday, this Friday, same time, 9:30, we're also going to be offering some protocols and discussing some different certifications that are out there. They're going to allow you to have more knowledge and feel more comfortable about getting back to work when it comes time for you to be able to get back to work. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to my friend Hannah, and she's going to help to introduce the rest of this incredible panel that we put together for you.
Thank you. Good morning. As Michael mentioned, I'm Hannah Duncan. I'm the owner of Well CBD Products. I've been in the industry for about 14 years and just done everything between manufacturing, marketing, organizational development, pretty much anything you can do on the vendor side of things. With us, we have a great panel. First up is Deb King. She's the owner of the Hideaway Day Spa. She's a licensed esthetician and cosmetologist and has over 20 years experience in the beauty industry. So thank you, Deb. Next, we have Kelly Martin. She's the spa and retail director at the Edgewater in Madison, Wisconsin. She's been in the spa industry for over 21 years, working in both the operations side and the vendor side of the industry. And last but not least, we have Suzanne Schmalling, who's a licensed master esthetician, certified laser tech, author, and instructional designer with 25 years of experience. She is also the founder of the Aesthetics Council, an advocacy organization for licensed estheticians. So we have a wealth of knowledge between all of us on the panel today. We're coming from completely different sides of the spectrum, and we are just so excited to be presenting this information to you today. With that, we do want to make sure that you do understand that everything that we're sharing with you today are suggestions, and just we're trying to give you something to think about. There's been so many amazing webinars, and a lot of this information has come from iSpa, from the Florida Spa Association, from the Aesthetics Council, from the Southeast Wellness Association, and many others. And there's just so much information, and we're all just trying to make sure we do it right. And so what we wanted to do was bring it all together in one place for you and say, hey, here's some things to think about, but in the end, this is something that you will use as a tool to build your own plan. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the discussion points for today. The first one is, will they come back? A lot of you have been posting in different groups that you've had tons of your clients asking when you're going to open, and we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be talking about social distancing, something we call theatrical cleaning, behind the scenes, training, opening phases, if you could do it all over again, preparing your team, iSpa shopping list that just was released about an hour ago. We're so excited and thankful for it. And then we've also provided tons of resources and marketing for you to go over after the call. Now, Buzz Beauty just came out with an awesome survey that said that 97% it shows you on the bottom of the screen all of the, how quickly everyone wants to get back to beauty the first 30 days. But what the biggest thing that we noticed about this survey is 97% of all of these people, all these consumers, want to know what we're doing to keep them safe upon their return. So we kind of took our cue from that for the next section of this webinar. It's all about how we're keeping the client safe, how we're keeping ourselves safe, and that's what we're going to talk about. Michael, you had explained sanitation to us in such a good way. I'm going to let you kick off the why and the how of sanitation, and then we'll go from there.
The why and the how and the wow.
Yeah.
So, and thank you, Hannah. And again, thank you all the panelists for being part of this. And it's such a great group, and I've known you all for a very long time. And thank you all for the people that are tuning in. I know some of you are longtime Circadia users, and some of you may not be, but I thought it was just so important to while all these conversations are going on, to be able to provide the support and the resources to those that are coming to us and asking all these questions, knowing that not all of you have access to these different resources. Not all of you are ISPOD board members. Not all of you are members of these different organizations. So we have access. We're trying to pull it together and present it to you. But of course, we're giving credit where credit is due. So the question, of course, is why sanitation? And it seems like an obvious question. As licensed estheticians and professionals, this is something that is part of our normal everyday practice. It's something that we normally have to do. But we're having to take extra steps because of the public health threat that COVID has presented. No one's ever seen anything like this. So we're having to take all these additional steps and all these additional measures to ensure the safety of not just the staff, but also of the guests that are coming in. So that's really why we're having this conversation. When we get down to the root of it, that's what we're trying to do. When we look at this particular issue that we're dealing with, COVID-19, it is an easily transmitted virus. It's transmitted through the eyes, through the nose, in through the mouth, inhalation, and it comes through pretty close contact. And of course, aesthetics is probably one of the last touch businesses in the world, and we maintain very close contact and very close quarters for quite some time when we're providing these services and treatments to our guests. So having proper sanitation procedure is absolutely critical, especially now. So when we look at this virus and viruses in general, the makeup and the structure of viruses, technically they're not alive. They're not living. They actually need to be connected to cells in order for them to be able to multiply. And in many cases, they kill their hosts, and that's the case that we see here. When we talk about sanitation, we're talking about measures that are taken to control the spread, but specifically trying to kill and eliminate the presence of the virus. And when we look at the different things that are out there, most notably now, which was on everyone's mind, is hand sanitizers and the availability, the shortage that has been created because everybody is looking to get their hands on them. So specifically, what happens when we use hand sanitizers is because of the nature of what they are, they're primarily proteins. There's lipid coatings to some of the viruses, but it's the alcohol, specifically the alcohol's ability to denature the viruses. And if you look at other sanitizing products that are on the market, whether it be for surfaces or for body parts, cleansing agents, surfactants, what we're really trying to do is break apart the lipid and protein structures that make up viruses. And alcohol is something that does that very well. And we'll talk a little bit more about the WHO formulations and why the concentrations need to be where they are. But obviously, the question of why sanitation is we're trying to protect our clients, but we're also trying to protect employees and staff that's providing the service as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I did forget to mention that we have a question and answer box. So if you have any questions during this presentation, please type it in the question and answer box. That's where we're going to be able to see it the best. And we have designated areas throughout this presentation where we will go back and answer those questions. So again, please use the question and answer box. Now, when we're talking about our next subject, which is social distancing, there are a lot of different areas and a lot of different perspectives depending on where you work, where your spa is. For instance, we have Kelly who works at a very large resort, and then we have Deb who works at a day spa. And so there's very different areas depending on where you work and what you can do to social distance. And I also just wanted to point out that Kelly will be leaving us in a little bit because she's actually she's on the iSpa board, and they're actually having another meeting today to help us with even more tools. So if she disappears, don't be alarmed. We didn't lose her, she left us, but for good reason. So Kelly, I'm gonna throw to you first. Coming from a resort, you have a lot of areas. You've got, I know you also run the market in the resort. You have a very large spa, 2-story spa, and a lot of different areas. What are some things that you're running into as far as concerns about social distancing?
Yes, well, thank you for including me in this. We really took the approach. I went through, just like when a guest would walk through our front door, exactly every touch point, and I broke it down by that, so that, because there's going to be things I thought, oh my God, we're going to miss this because we don't see it from the guest's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I also did that for my staff, from where they literally walk in the door and every touch point, so that we could limit that. And, I started looking at our lounges and, and how are we going to take the guests right back to the treatment room instead of the locker room in our phase 1? And that's what we're going to do. Different things like our amenity, our snacks and our water. We still want to provide that because we still want to provide that luxury service to our guests. We don't want them to feel like we're in a clinical setting.
Right.
So, we're going to pre-package things. We're going to really, it gives us the opportunity, I think I said this to you last night, was to really up our level of service even more by doing a personalized water service instead of having it out self-serve, a personalized tea service.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the things we're doing to combat that social distancing of being in the lounge.
Mm-hmm. I like the suggestion you had yesterday about you have like an infusion of the week or something for the water.
Yeah,
right?
because we use, we won't be able to have our big water dispenser out with our beautiful fruit infused water. So I don't want to just hand a guest a bottle of water, because that goes against everything in our, high-end personalized. So I said, how can we do this? Well, we can create a beautiful glass of water to give to the guests with the fruit and everything, and just be like, this is the flavor we're using this week. So
yeah, I thought that was a great idea. Well, what about you, Deb? Coming from a smaller space, it's almost harder, I think, sometimes to do with a smaller space. What have you been thinking about?
So we're definitely having to coordinate our clients so that nobody's in the waiting room or checkout room at the same time. So I'm scheduling 45 minutes between clients so that I can do the full cleaning while a client is not there, taking laundry, putting it outside of the spa, so that it's not even, I know you can just use a closed container, but I'm just taking everything out.
Right.
And then my massage therapist will have her clients coming on the off 15 minutes that, I'm not with someone, and vice versa, so that we don't have anybody in the area at the same time. And then, of course, going through and cleaning the waiting rooms, the doorknobs, the bathrooms, every hour between the clients.
Right. That's great. That's some great advice. Going over a few things that really stood out to me on the social distancing for scheduling was just like you had talked about of rotating your schedule, and there's only 2 of you. That takes a lot of coordination and planning. And then for Kelly, I know you had talked about having a clean team who came in and cleaned between your clients so that your estheticians could then actually take some time to sell the retail products to the client. That's really awesome. And again, new training. And then also a big thing that I keep hearing are no guests of clients. It's something that you have a lot of girlfriends that come in and hang out, and it just can't happen these days, right?
That's going to be an issue for us because we do a lot of bridal parties, and we've shifted all of our bridal parties for the most part to fall. I think we're going to have a crazy busy fall, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But, I've been scheduling all of their trials because they had to be rescheduled. And every trial, everyone wants to bring their mom or their sister. And, there could be in our salon, there could be 6 extra people. And so that's the hard part, is explaining to guests why. But it's, I think it's really important that we do kind of that PR and as to why we're doing it. It's to protect our staff and to protect them.
Absolutely. Another big thing was testers. And I know Michael and I were talking about that, about not having testers out. And so I know some people are just really ramping up on their little spatulas and having like a dispensary behind the desk. Is that what you two are doing?
Yes, I've already taken all my dispensers out. I've purchased for in the room little like paint things, so I'm not touching the bottles while I'm working on the clients. I have the products already laid out when I can open, and just, you know, then having to sanitize the bottles anyways, you know, because you just can't be too careful.
Right, absolutely. Then in the lounge areas, I know a lot of people are either taking half the chairs out or taking all the chairs out. Kelly, you mentioned taking the client straight to the room for phase 1.
Yeah, we can't take, we have, as you know, our lounge area has a very big built-in couch.
Yes.
We can't take it out. So that's why we were like, how do we get around this? We will take them straight back to the treatment room to start with. And then probably phase 2, depending on business levels, we'll start phasing back in the lounge area.
Okay. And then I know, Michael, you're going to go over face shields and masks and all that later. So I'm going to save that one for you, because I know we're going to get into that in a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. And then about locker rooms. McKelly, you do have a locker room. And what are you doing with the locker rooms right now?
So we've talked about this because our locker rooms are also tied to all of our fitness areas that are open to not just spa guests, but they're open to all of our hotel guests.
Oh, wow.
So we have upped in our budget, we upped how many attendants we're going to need, because we're going to have somebody either designated once we do open those locker rooms just to be in the locker rooms to wipe out lockers after every guest. You forget about how many times, if you really look at it and go, how many times do I touch the door? Do I touch the chair? Do I touch,
Right.
You touch so much stuff. Like, we've all realized how much we touch our face through this.
Right.
When you're going in. So we've designated extra staff that we know will have to come back to just solely be like working in the fitness areas just to wipe down equipment. Again, being very, very visible and transparent with our guests on what we're doing.
Right. And I've also heard of people making little amenity packages with a shampoo, conditioner, Q-tips, that kind of thing, maybe a makeup remover in like a bag.
So we don't normally stage our lockers. We have our attendants take them down with their slippers in their locker and show them everything, which we will still have that level, but in each locker, their robe will be sealed in a bag, their slippers will be sealed in a bag. And then we will have mini amenities for them instead of large ones out, So, and then we'll have other items out. We'll have signage that will say available upon request. Okay. You think about that, like the hair dryer.
Right.
And all of that.
Totally.
So I'm still like, do we leave stuff out? Do we not? Because stuff's going to have to be wiped down every single time. So I think if we have a person in the locker room that is designated for that, they can be wiping that down after each person or getting it for the guests too, because again, it gives us that opportunity to up our level of service.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to remind everyone watching too that all of this information is going to be available on the Circadia Educational Forum and landing page, which we'll go over later on. So don't worry about taking a million notes. I mean, of course, take notes, but this will everything we're showing you is also going to be on the landing page as well as a replay of this video. So if anyone's missed it, don't worry. This kind of takes us into our next portion, which is theatrical cleaning. We've talked about some of these so far, but the biggest, we heard theatrical cleaning, all of us did, and thought this was the greatest thing we've ever heard. It totally makes sense because we're
great term. I love it.
Huge, and we're all big sanitizers anyways, like that's everything about our industry. But whereas Kelly had mentioned yesterday, she's like, oh no, you will never see us clean in front of our clients. Now it's, look, clients, how clean we are. So some of the things we mentioned so far, but a few things that really stood out to really make your client feel safe to me was a mobile check-in. If you can do like check-ins or intake on the phone, if you can designate someone for that. a day or so before. Also just reminding them, like Kelly said, about the no guest policy, because you're going to have to reinforce that about 10 times. Clean teams, that kind of thing. Was there anything that that Kelly or Deb that you're doing that to really make it stand out, that of how safe you're keeping your client?
Well, we talked about for massage, especially, even though the massage room will be cleaned and ready to go for this next guest, when we bring them into the room, we're, instead of just having them do a hand sanitizer, we're going to make it a ritual.
Yeah.
Of the guest cleansing and the therapist cleansing, but then also because of where they put their face, right in that face cradle,
Right.
we will again clean that face cradle with a sanitizing wipe, and then show them out of a clean sealed bin. The face cradle cover will go on, so they know. So it's not, normally it would just be ready to go when they came into the room.
Right.
I think for aesthetics, we'll do the same. The very same thing. The table will be made, but we'll put down a fresh towel and do all of that in front of the guest. All these things that you wouldn't normally do.
Right. What about you, Deb? Is there anything in particular?
Well, just this pretty much the same thing that Kelly's saying. Everything will be clean when the client comes in, but again, do the theatrical cleaning so that they see and are more confident in, knowing that we're doing our best practices to keep them safe, including the new towel, which normally would be there when they got there, a clean robe out of the sealed package, washing their hands, washing my hands, just to let them know that we're doing our best to keep them safe.
Absolutely. A couple of things I wanted to bring up was I went to the bakery the other day, and the guy at the bakery was wearing gloves, right? And he checks me out and everything, and I hand him my debit card, and he uses my debit card. And then as he's talking to me about, how are you doing? He's wiping my debit card off with a sanitation wipe, and then handed it back to me, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, I go, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was so kind. And then I got in my car and was driving. I said, he just theatrical cleaned me. I mean, what was the point? What was the point of that? But it was so awesome.
Yeah.
Especially being a bakery, like they keep their doors open and all these things. And I thought, oh my God, that was genius. Because I just thought, thank you so much for caring about me. It was awesome. It was awesome. Another thing that I've heard some people doing or going to do, which I thought was awesome, was spraying immune boosters in the room over the client, the essential oils, or maybe the immune boosters are essential oils, that kind of thing.
Well, that's what we decided. We normally start every treatment, no matter what it is, with an essential oil that's a stress reliever to kind of bring everyone down.
Yeah.
And we're switching that to an immune booster, and to really tell people that we're doing that for their benefit as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it totally is, of course, but to switch it, like you said, maybe it was lavender before, now it's an immune booster scent, so that totally makes sense and makes the client feel better. One thing is, as always, we care so much about is the spa smelling like a spa when you come in. It doesn't smell like bleach when you come in. I know, Michael, you're just came out the hand sanitizer, and yours thankfully doesn't smell like bleach. It smells, and I noticed it, that the smell goes away in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, it does dissipate very rapidly. And what we did is we started making, just like so many other cosmetic manufacturers, but manufacturers of all different varieties in the United States, the FDA fast-tracked what's called a drug registration, because when you use a hand sanitizer or you make a hand sanitizer, it actually is a drug. It's certain cosmetics like SPFs and benzoyl peroxides. They are cosmetic, but they're also OTC drugs. And at Circadia, we're an FDA-registered manufacturing facility. So literally on a Saturday, when the FDA said, you can do this, that registration normally takes about 3 months. It took us 2 days to get that. But you have to follow the specific formulation that's on the FDA's website. You can go right there. It's only 4 ingredients, and if it's the 2 separate alcohol formulas. It's 75% either isopropyl alcohol or an 80% ethanol denatured alcohol. But because it's so watery, there's no thickeners, there's no essential oils, there's no fragrance in it that you would typically find in a hand sanitizer that you're going to buy from a drugstore or something like that. It's so watery. They recommend using it in a spray, which is what we're using. This is what it looks like. But the presentation of it is great because, again, you get a good coverage with the spray. I feel like I'm in an infomercial now. But you're right. You can get a really good coverage. It goes on, and then the spray is gone. You don't get that kind of alcohol.
You're not sticky.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, the alcohol, it gives a headache. You don't have that for an extended period of time. So it does go on relatively quickly. And for those of you that have not heard that information before, or may not be clear on that or want to hear it again, go to the FDA's website. You can actually go and look and see what the labeling requirements are and what the formulas are. They are identical. Anybody who's selling a hand sanitizer that wasn't before COVID-19 health emergency, they're selling the exact same product, and it's alcohol, hydrogen peroxide to help to kill microbes inside the bottles, glycerin and water. And it's because of the shortage, and they don't want anything else in there. They don't want any of those other ingredients that I mentioned because it could potentially cause the alcohol to work harder to kill other microbes. They want the alcohol focused on killing COVID-19. So that's where that comes from. And, it also helps with the theatricality of making sure that it's clean. It shows that it's in action. You can hear the pump going. So I think it really ticks a lot of boxes as far as what we're talking about here now. And again, to your point, theatrical cleaning, I mean, it's important. And I don't know who coined the phrase. I heard it might have been Suzanne Holbrook from Marriott, but whoever it is definitely deserves the credit. If anybody did, whoever it was, please step forward and claim credit because it's brilliant.
It's brilliant. So we're going to go ahead and go into behind the scenes. And this is the part, these are the things that we're talking about that the client might not see, but that we know that we really need to be aware of. A lot of employers are taking employees' temperatures as they come in the building. There's a lot of different things going on here. Kelly, what's going on in your spa?
So thankfully I've been wanting to implement this. This is one of those great times that we get to reset. To have our staff, they always love to come in through the front, and it drives me crazy. So we have a side door, which is right by the time clock. So we're going to start having them come in that door because we will be taking their temperatures. We'll be logging it just for, insurance purposes.
Right.
We are requiring their uniforms are clean every day. We have a solution for that. We're going to, everything I've been reading on steaming uniforms, if they, or, blankets, they can sit for 6 hours, things like that. Mm-hmm. So we'll be doing that in between as well. But just kind of shifting, no personal items, which has always been the rule in their treatment rooms, but now for sure, no personal items.
It's kind of been a reboot on the rules, right? Yeah. Now you can say, I have to.
Yeah. I did have some staff that contacted me and said, they're worried because of checkout. If people can't check out, if it's contactless and we're just charging their card, will they get a gratuity? Because, they all love their tips. Yeah. So it was a good time for us to implement a automatic gratuity.
Oh, okay. There you go.
We don't want them to lose out because I know they do really well on that. Yeah. We've talked about, I have a lot of therapists that, and all my estheticians, they actually have their work shoes that they leave here. Mm-hmm. So I've just heard people are sanitizing their shoes and spraying their shoes when they come in and out, but most of them leave their work shoes here in their locker anyway. So there is no outside,
Yeah. Cooties. Okay. What about you?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. What about you, Deb? Oh, Deb, I can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
There you go.
The new thing for me will be the changing of the scrubs in between clients, like a full on change. so now I'm in the hunt to purchase lots of scrubs, but that's going to be my main thing. I'll have shoe covers. I'm so small that I don't have to worry about having personal things in the spa, in the room or what have you, because it's just me and one other. But we will do the change of scrubs and shoe covers, and I don't know, there's just so much to think about.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's why we make the list.
And you know what? If I can just interject for a moment, because again, a lot of there's primarily this is going out to the Circadia list, and Kelly at the Edgewater Dead King, the Hideaway. You're both Circadia clients, but come from two very different segments of the aesthetic industry, right? You're both spas, but everybody in between is looking for you. Destination spa, resort spa that does have a lot of local clientele, and then Deb, an owner operator that's in the treatment room, almost the entire day. But everybody's looking for answers as to what to do and how to get back. So again, that's kind of why we're putting this forward, and we're lucky enough to have people like Kelly who are great loyal Circadia customers, but that are also members of the iSpa board that can come back to us and that are willing to share this type of information with us so that we can present it to you as well. But again, just like Hannah said in the beginning, these are helpful suggestions that are being put forward as to how to get back to work. This isn't a set in stone practice or procedure or protocol. These are things that are being talked about as
Right.
what could be doing to help really mitigate risk of spreading the virus, which is
Right.
what
And
everyone wants to do.
I think it's important too that, all of our spaces are so different. You have to figure out what's going to work for your space, because
Right.
it's not like I can't go out and buy, 6 uniforms for every one of my staff. That's just not in my budget. I love that Deb's doing that. I think that's great. I can't put that in my budget. I would love to, but so every day they have a new uniform. I just can't do that. You have to figure out what's going to work for you, because all of our spaces are so different. So
Right.
that's why I've been the same, like on every webinar I can get on and just be like, okay, I can take this and how do I modify it to work for our space that we have and within our budget and keep everyone safe. So it is. I have to jump off. Thank you so
Yes.
much for including me. Love you
Kelly,
all.
thank
on,
you so
Kelly.
much for being part of it, for participating. Tell everyone at iSpa that we said hello and thank them so much for all the hard work that they put in. We can't wait to see what they are going to help to share with us next.
And we know that
Thank you so much.
Kelly's coming back with more info for us too. So go find out new stuff for us, Kelly. All right. So at this point, I want to throw it to Suzanne. We've kind of left you out so far, but we have hit.
Hey, I'm making good notes. I'm learning.
We have hit your subject, buddy. I want to talk to you. You gave us some great insight that I would love for you to share with everyone. You talked about, and I'm going to give you the subject matters, and I want you to start it off. And then, Michael, I want you have some great perspective here too.
Sure.
So, Suzanne, I want you to talk about UV lights, and then I want, because it's a huge thing that we keep hearing about, we've also been hearing about dwell times. Michael, I want you to get on this, especially with you have the hand sanitizer and everything, so I know you've done a lot of research here. And then also, we want to talk about facial gear, what you should be wearing during facials. So let's start, Suzanne, with a UV light.
Yeah, UV got a lot of attention, and just in a nutshell, don't use UV. It's very controversial. It's also very damaging to the human body. And what we need in order to kill this virus needs to be very, very strong. So, and this kind of goes into dwell time as well. With, let's say, a UV sanitizer machine that's used in a hospital, they literally will leave that on for hours overnight to disinfect a room. And if you have shadows in your room, obviously the UV light can't reach those shadows, so those areas will not be disinfected. The only way to determine if a UV system has worked is to actually hire an industrial hygienist. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. You're going to be hearing a lot about industrial hygienists. But essentially, they have tests that allow them to go in and test the environment to make sure that the UV has actually killed what it's supposed to kill. We can't afford that. That's not something that's going to be real practical. So using a UV wand to try to kill something on the surface in between clients, it's not effective. Some of them that you see that you can buy, like I saw some to take care of little pacifiers for babies. That's bacteria. So it's been rated by the EPA or OSHA to kill bacteria, not this virus. So currently, we don't have any peer-reviewed studies that are actually showing that a certain wavelength of UV light is completely killing COVID. That may change. You know, I hope we get more information, but we really have to be careful. You've got to have the correct eyewear. If you are using a UV machine, just like a laser, you know, we've got to protect the eyes against the certain wavelengths. And we know that UV induces cancer. It kills all cells. They are looking at far UVC. That we know doesn't penetrate deeply into the skin, but we also don't know if it's not been proven to be effective against COVID. So right now, I would say no. For those of you that don't know, you need to check your state rules as well. There are many, many states that have made even just having a UV box that we use to like dry our tools, many states have made that illegal for us as licensees. So make sure that you know what your state guidelines are for that.
You know, I mean, and that's fascinating. And for those of you that are watching and are not familiar with Suzanne and her credentials, she is the president of the Aesthetic Council. I'm on the Aesthetic Council as well, but she deals day to day with the legality of what it means to be an esthetician, and also everything as far as scope of practice, to what it is that we can use, what it is that we can't use, really helping to protect our profession and the integrity of the profession. So when I approached her about UVC, when we started to have the conversation, she said, no, it doesn't work. I had heard the same thing that, that Hannah was talking about, that this is a good idea. And I thought it was a great idea, knowing that they were using UVC, that, yeah, that's really bad for the skin, but it's got to kill a bunch of these microbes, but it is not rated for virus. And then, of course, there's something that, to be said for calibration and making sure that it is, rated as an actual device and not something that's just a bulb and it's doing what it's supposed to. So it really is an interesting point that it's not really doing what we would hope that it would be doing. Hopefully, maybe it will, but, thank you for that, Susie. That's really very, very interesting to hear. And we just started talking about that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to circle back possibly in the next couple of weeks if we find out any more information or anything. Michael, why don't we talk about dwell time?
Yeah, dwell time. And again, that was the new term that Suzanne and I just started talking about. And she probably could speak more intelligently than I can. But of course, the dwell time is the amount of time that it takes for a sanitizer or a sanitizing product to actually be effective. And it's specific to the actual sanitizer, and whether it's alcohol, an ethanol-based hand sanitizer, whether it's something like a standard Lysol product, or whether it's an industrial hospital type of sanitizer, it can be as few as 10 minutes. It can be upwards of 30 minutes. So the time in between your treatments that you're setting has to be determined by the dwell time of the sanitizer that you're using. So that's going to change. So that's something that you really got to take a look at. And Suzanne, feel free to hop in here at any time. There are some, I know that iSpa has also put out there some resources as far as what you can purchase, what is available on the market. And the EPA, of course, has their list of approved sanitizers that I think iSpa has also put out. But there are some that are not there. Some that are actually hospital sanitizers that can be used. Just to drop this in here, because I was doing some research as well. There's a group called Quats that are also used sometimes in the home, and I did some research on those. And before COVID-19, they were seen as being overkill. In fact, the analogy that was used is it's using a sledgehammer to kill a housefly. And just kind of thinking that and going in with theatrical cleaning, well, maybe now is the time to use something that would be overkill. So I don't, without giving, expanding too much more on that. Susanna, do you want to add anything else on dwell time and the specifics of the dwell time?
Well, I'd have to say the most important thing that I've seen over time is understanding the product that you're using. And that's why with the verification program we are requesting that everyone that gets involved in this program actually goes through product knowledge training or can prove that they understand their own product. A lot of things that we see happen are not mixing the correct ratio, not putting enough on surfaces. Like when we say dwell time, it needs to stay wet. It can't dry out within that certain time frame that's being recommended. So you may be reapplying 2, 3, 4 times. And in the past, often, and I'm guilty of this with back-to-back appointments, I'll spray it, I'll wipe, and we're good to go. That's not the world anymore. So we have to keep it wet. We have to follow to the letter your disinfectant manufacturer's recommendations for sure. And you've also got to check your state board to find out what's allowed. You know, quats in some states are still on the list, other states it's not. So like, what do we really need to do? So that you're going to get to know your state board rules really well again. Unfortunately, you're back in it.
Yeah, I agree. And Suzanne, I think you've also put some resources for the Aesthetic Council that Hannah, we have that we're going to be putting up on after the webinar too.
Right. Everything will be up to date and on tomorrow with the replay of this webinar. So I know that there's going to be questions that we're going to want to look back on, and even what you just mentioned just now, we need to put on the landing page. So let's just everyone come back tomorrow. George will send out an email to remind everyone that everything's been updated by tomorrow with the replay. And with that, Suzanne, you also started talking about your training certification, and this is something that we're all in awe of. And so if you could please share with us some information about the training, the certification. Wait, hold on. Hold everything. Hold everything. I wrote it down somewhere. The Sanitation and Disinfection Expert Verification.
Right. So this is a program that we're furiously working on right now. In fact, I'm so tired from being up half the night, but what the idea behind this is, you as a professional already have your basic sanitation disinfection standards. We need to respect that you've already gone through this type of training. And the reason we're calling it a verification is because we're working on a competency-based model, which means, okay, great, you've taken that knowledge, but how can you prove that you actually are knowing what you're supposed to do and performing the way you're supposed to perform? So this program really gets in the weeds with a lot of additional science, as well as, you know, the great recommendations we've seen about working in the room. We really dive in deep and give you the opportunity to put into practice what you're learning. So we're recommending to take as many of these types of classes that you can, and then you come to us and you've actually got a test that you must pass at an 80% level. And you also have a project, and it's called a risk management plan. And we're going to walk you through how not only to plan around COVID, but all of the risks associated with your particular situation, whether you have employees or it's just you alone. You're given a digital badge. Within this digital badge, we have something called metadata, and your client could actually click on the digital badge and see exactly what your competencies are. And you can also use it to market. You'll also have a certificate. And then we've got some great partners like Barry with Lip Gloss and Aftershave. Obviously, Michael, we're Circadia, that has a lot of marketing things that you will be able to implement to do press releases and things like that. So we're really trying, I guess, to validate your professional experience and knowledge. And then that's kind of where that theatrical cleaning comes in. We're communicating to our potential customer and current customer that we're very conscientious about what we do.
Absolutely. And again, remember, going back to the very first slide, 97% of people, of your clients, want to know how you're going to keep them safe. So to be able to use that on social media, I'm guessing, right? The badge.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all digital.
To let them know that you've been verified, you're certified, and that you know what you're doing on keeping them safe is going to be really important.
I mean, Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Hannah, but I mean, clear signage to show that you have that you've gone through that additional training, that you've taken the measures and the steps to make sure that you're ensuring the safety of your guests, I think is going to be something that would be in high demand. And I know that I would certainly want it. I would want to know that I have the knowledge, number one. Number two, that my guests have the confidence in knowing that I'm taking these additional measures to ensure their safety. So not only am I going through the motions to show them what I'm doing, but also that it's actually being done and that this is a clean space.
Absolutely, you're taking it seriously. Absolutely. So I'm sure one of the questions, I just keep seeing the question box blink, is if where to find your information on the certification. It's going to be on this page on the ebook when it's republished tomorrow, but it's also going to be on the landing page. And again, we'll show you where later on in this webinar. Also on this page, it's going to be a link to Friday's webinar, part 2. And Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so part 2, again, when we started collecting all the resources and when we put a few feelers out to some of our clients, the biggest thing that people are asking is, well, what should I do? What should I do? And we've got a few of those steps here. We've got quite a few of those steps, but what we didn't have is a protocol. Well, can I do this? Can I do that? So we're going to, again, really lay out a protocol, really lay out a step-by-step process that you can follow. And we'd like to have some footage of this that they can actually follow, again, to mitigate risk. We can't safely say without creating liability that, well, this is going to keep you safe. This is how you keep your clients safe. It's all about mitigating the potential risk. I mean, this isn't going anywhere. I mean, the reality is the guest could come in, you take all the necessary steps and precautions, and they go in and buy a pack of chewing gum and put it on the belt at the grocery store. And, you know, they try to trace it back to you. There's still going to be opening for liability through all of this. But as long as you're going through all the necessary measures that you can do, you have the confidence to know that you can open, and you can open by mitigating all potential, as much potential risk as you can. And that's really what we're trying to do here. So we will have a protocol, we will review the protocol, and we'll talk more about the verification that Suzanne has put together, which again, I think is going to be just an incredible credential that everyone is going to not only want, but also need going forward.
And in this call on Friday, you'll be talking about mask or not to mask, face shields and all that too, right?
Right. I mean, I think, you know, people are sourcing PPE right now. I think Suzanne and I have talked about this. I think we're going to have a hard time sourcing PPE, and, you know, there's a whole nother discussion on, you know, what the actual cost of a treatment will be. How do we price our treatments accordingly? I mean, I would venture to guess, like most estheticians that I've talked to over the last couple months, is that, you know, they've got inventory in their spa. I mean, it's aging inventory. How do they properly go about pricing their facial? Are they discounting? Should they be charging more? So that's not something that we've gone into yet. Friday's webinar is designed to give them a step-by-step protocol. How do I make sure that I'm doing this right? Because sanitary procedure is something that we cover, but I'm willing to guess it's not something that is ingrained in our minds from aesthetics, and probably not something that we've focused a whole lot of energy and attention on throughout our careers. But I bet that everyone's paying attention to it now. So It's something that we all need a refresher on. And I think this is the first steps in, at the very least, in what we would like to see our Circadia clients starting to make efforts towards doing. We want to take strides to make sure that they're being safe, and they're making sure that their clients are as safe as they possibly can be, mitigating the risk. A term that we've used, I can't even tell you how many times we've said that over the last week or so. Mitigate risk.
Mitigate.
I'm using mitigate in all aspects of conversation and discussion.
Yep.
All right. So just as a reminder, the link for the certification, as well as a link to Friday's webinar, will be on this page, as well as on the landing page tomorrow. Okay. So that way you can all get signed up for both of those. I'm going to move on to opening your spa in phases. This is more of a worksheet for you. Again, it's going to be in this ebook that's going to be available for you to download. And this is something for you to keep organized, as well as to communicate to your staff. of what your plans are for phase 1, phase 2. Just like the country is opening up and your county is opening up in phases, so should your spa. Something for you to just kind of use as a jump off point. And again, it's so important to communicate with your team and let them know what's happening. And then everyone's on the same page as to the message that you're giving your clients. So for instance, if you're cutting the sauna off this month as phase 1, then at least your clients know it'll come back in phase 2 or phase 3. It depends on what you want to do and what's best for you and your board and your state and all of that, okay? Finally, we talked about a lot of products that you're going to need to be ready. We talked about face masks, face shields, sanitation, all of that. The iSpa has just released this morning an amazing list of all of the vendors. I know Circadia participated in this too, of letting people know what's available to them, because it's so hard to find anything these days. And so what iSpa did was reach out to all the vendors in their spa association and say, what is it you have? What is it you can offer? And so it's one link that shows you where to get everything. It's amazing. I sent them something, I'm not sure it's in there, but the filters, the air filters. I actually got this from Florida Spa Association. Dr. Ebru was it was the Southeast Spa Association, excuse me, Alana and Liliana. Dr. Ebru was part of that one, great webinar, and she was saying that most HEPA filters are 0.3, but this is a 0.1 virus, so you need to make sure your HEPA filter is a 0.1. And I found those at Office Depot. Not Office Depot, Home Depot. So if it's not on the list, I haven't checked it yet, I haven't got to see it, it's at Home Depot. Not hard, they're like $12. But it's a great, great list for you to take a look at and be able to find everything that you're looking for. So thank you to iSpa. Now, Caitlin, I'm sure you've got questions for us. And so we're gonna take some time to go over questions about theatrical cleaning and sanitizing and everything else. What do you have to throw at us, Caitlin?
Well, we have so many questions. We have so many comments first, just thanking all the panelists for having such amazing expertise on this subject matter. And there's been quite a few questions regarding the logistics of doing an actual treatment with a face shield, and then what is the consumer supposed to be wearing if one of you has to be wearing a mask, or if they have to be wearing one, what exactly the protocol looks like. So Michael, maybe if you want to just reiterate a little bit more about what Friday's webinar is going to entail, that will
Sure.
answer quite a few of these questions.
Yeah, I'll do that. And then again, we are running a little short on time, and I want to make sure that we can get to some of the marketing pieces. So I'll just cover that real briefly. What Suzanne and I have talked about and what it's looking like is that, yes, you will have to wear, as the esthetician, the practitioner, you will have to wear a mask. You will also have to wear a face shield. Gloves are going to be of importance. What's interesting about this in particular, and I'm not saying don't wear gloves, please don't take this the wrong way, is that this virus is spread through the nose, the eyes, and inhalation. So it's not like normal sanitation protocols that we have where we're worried about bloodborne pathogens, where if you have a cut and you're doing extraction, it could pass something like HIV or hepatitis. That's not something that's as big of a concern, but of course we're still recommending of wearing gloves. In some states it's required, in some states it's not, but that goes to, you know, making sure that we have a consistent protocol. So in this protocol, you will definitely be wearing gloves, but it may cause some confusion because, well, my state doesn't require gloves. This one absolutely will. So we're going to have a stepwise procedure to say, this is our recommendation, again, to mitigate overall risk. It will also show hand washing. It will show utilization of hand sanitizer both before and after. But clearly, it's impossible to do a facial on a guest while they're wearing a mask. So no, they won't be able to wear a mask during the facial. And I mean, it defeats the purpose of what they're there for. For other services, aesthetic cosmetology services like haircut and microblading and waxing and things like that, that's a different story. But specifics to the facial, no, the guest will not be wearing a mask. But we will go over the protocol in a lot of detail.
Okay, great. And will that protocol also detail out the reasoning behind no steamers and warm towels instead, and then also about table warmers and things that are designed to be used for multiple treatments? Will you also be going over that information?
Yeah, so this of course is a topic of debate. It's something that we've talked about here amongst the group. We're going to recommend eliminating the use of steamers for now because, you know, the question is if you cough and and a pathogen, specifically COVID-19, makes its way into the steam and transmits to the client, could that happen, or could it accelerate the transmission? Possibly, maybe not, but we want to mitigate the risk. So we're going to say don't use steamers for now, specific to this Circadia protocol. We are going to recommend the use of a towel, not necessarily a steaming towel from the steamer, but at the very least a warm towel. And, you know, this comes with product knowledge, but enzymes are something that are activated by moisture, accelerated by heat. So a warm towel, not necessarily a hot steaming towel, would be beneficial to this particular protocol. And our goal is to be able to present something utilizing Circadia products, but then have you be able to take any product line that you're having and then say, okay, well, I'm not using Circadia, so I can use this cleanser, or I'm not using Circadia, so I can use this mask or this enzyme. I mean, what's really great about everything that we're dealing with right now is that everybody is sharing and pulling resources. We would not be able to have done this without the contributions of iSpa. We would not have been able to have done this with what the information that we've received and contributed from Florida Spa Association, from Southeast Spa Association. We absolutely would have not been able to have done this without Hannah pulling all of this information together and working with us, and certainly not without Suzanne contributing her expertise. So again, what we're really trying to do is find ways, not just for Circadia clients to go back to work when it's appropriate to go back to work, but really to make sure that the industry stays solvent, because all of our jobs are in jeopardy. Everybody's position's in jeopardy. So we want to make sure that the profession is healthy on the other side of this.
Absolutely.
Great. We have a couple of questions, and Deb, might be something that you can shine some light on regarding single room estheticians or those who are renting space. We've got quite a few questions on where do you store your retail so customers can't come up and maybe touch multiple bottles. And then if you're storing your clean towels and your laundry basket in the same closet, is it sufficient to just cover the laundry, the dirty laundry, and the clean laundry separate, or what's your plan in a smaller space similar to these people?
Sure. Well, my retail is in a closed cabinet that only I access. So, you know, it's got a glass front so anybody can see what's in there, but I'm the only one who accesses it. And that's how it is on a normal basis. So this is just, you know, I'm continuing with that. As far as the laundry goes, I've been told that you can have, as long as you have it in a closed container, that's fine. But I'm taking it a step further, and I'm removing the laundry from my treatment room into a room that nobody goes into. So my laundry will be taken out, of course, with my wearing gloves, into this other room in a closed container. And then when I take it to wash it, I'll take it out with gloves, put it in the washer with gloves, and then wash it on hot water. I think it's above 91 degrees. So that's my plan going forward.
Okay, great. And does everyone on the panel feel like that's enough, or do you think disposable sheets is a good way to go? Is it the required way to go versus just bleaching and washing at a high temperature?
Well, I mean, the one thing I can say, and this was a reminder to me too, you've got to use the right type of bleach. So my plan, if I was to be back in the room right now, is disinfectant bleach, if you can get your hands on it, and you need to put it in a either cold or warm cycle. So you don't want it hot when you're using disinfectant bleach. It deactivates the action. So you then take that into a hot dryer, and that continues the process of killing, other microbes that may be present. But disinfectant bleach by itself is sufficient enough to kill the COVID virus. I don't recommend storing used linens next to clean linens, even if it's closed, because you have no idea what might be on the lid. I mean, working aseptically is really, really difficult. And you're going to find that it's taking you a little bit of time to think through all of those touch points that were mentioned earlier. So try to make it as simple and as effective as possible. And if you're an independent contractor and don't have the space, maybe there's a way you can set up something where you can just put it, through your back door, or, depending on your facility. But the disinfectant bleach is another option.
Okay, great. And then as far as the subject of cleaning, what about cleaning floors and tile and the grout in between the tile?
Mm-hmm.
And do you prefer wipes versus sprays, or does that matter more about dwell time in the formulation versus the application method?
Who wants to get that one?
No, it's interesting. And again, because we've had a lot of information, and we've actually been approached, because we are a manufacturer for sanitizing products. There's something called an electrostatic fogger, which apparently is one of the best things for dispersing sanitizing products into the air. They're several $1,000s, and they're a little difficult to get your hands on right now. But that covers floors and everything. I think that may be a much harder resource and expense for most people to get to. But being able to spray a floor and have the product sit for the specific dwell time, if it's me and it's my spa, I think that's probably something that I would feel comfortable in rather than wiping, especially because you're looking at, in a different spa. A spa may be, a solid piece, but most of them are probably porous with concrete and grout and things like that. So you need something to actually sit in the floor. Most spas, again, are going to be using disposable or some type of footwear that's going to be sanitized and cleansed after each treatment. So again, we've got a lot of different types, and it goes back to the conversation on the sheets too. What type of spa setting are we talking about? Are we talking about something that's used to doing high volume, where you're going to have someone cleaning, a cleaning crew, or a staff, a team that's dedicated to just that? Or are we going to have a single operator who's going to be in there, who's going to be doing all this on their own? I think, again, these are all suggestions that it's going to really come down to what is going to be the best option that we have for you. But if it's my opinion, I would say probably something that's going to spray and be able to get into the porous parts of floors specifically, and make sure it's on there for that dwell time is going to be important. Suzanne, anything to add on that?
I recommend taking out all your throw rugs for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
our decor space isn't going to be as luxurious as we're used to, but anything that is fabric, like a floor rug, a couch, obviously you got to keep it there, chairs. I use something called Beneffect, and it's called Beneffect. I think it's Decon 30. And I'm actually using this at home on my carpets and upholstery. And I know that's been rated to kill as well. So there are those sanitizers out there that will specifically work on fabric. But again, we're talking about soaking the fabric. So maybe covers, and just for sure remove your floor rugs right now.
Okay, great. So I know we want to move on because we are running a little bit over. Just the last question in this section. And if we haven't gotten to your question, we will be able to respond to you afterwards. So we'll get to you before the end of the day. But we have had a few questions come in regarding different insurance companies. And will they cover you if a client claims they got COVID from your location? And if you know of any insurance companies that have pivoted to cover any of these things that we're now facing.
Suzanne, that is all you.
Okay. Yeah, no, most professional liability insurance that we have do not cover virus transmission or bacterial outbreak or disease. So you need to really read your clauses or your entire policy and look at. I know there's insurance companies and groups that are looking at, is this feasible? The reality is insurance companies there to make a profit. And with this current pandemic and the fact that the numbers of people who are getting it are going up and the deaths are going up, I think you're going to be very hard pressed to find any type of insurance company that's going to have a rider or a way to add to that policy to cover you in case you get blamed. The issue of liability is a big one. And with liability, you have two parts you have to look at. The federal government has delegated to the states. So that means your governor is issuing an executive order about whether or not you can open. If you're an independent contractor and an employer or a single operator owner, you need to follow not only what your governor's executive order is, but you're still licensed, so you still have to follow guidelines that are distributed by your Department of Cosmetology. I'm finding there's some conflict between the two, and this is something that we're trying to work through right now. But you just need to keep in mind what those guidelines are and adhere to the best of your ability to those guidelines if there's something that's in a gray area. And I know that's one of the things, if you get sued or there's contact tracing that goes back to a facility, that is not a great thing, because you're going to have the health department knocking on your door to shut it down. And that could end up being a liability as well. So I wish I had really good news around that. You may be able to find an insurance company to work with you on that, but it's going to be very, very expensive. So again, you're going back to that risk versus reward analysis that you need to do within your own business. If we find any resources that come through on this, I will definitely let Hannah and Michael know so that they can post that up there.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. And in the information that we are providing for you is in our Dropbox we're going to provide for you is a liability waiver for your clients when they come in, agreeing that they understand the risk of coming into your spa. Now, again, you need to talk to your own legal counsel about this, your own state and government, and make sure it goes along with what you're supposed to be doing where you are. But it's another resource for you to use that we're going to give to you that you can use as a template for your own spa. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hold the questions for now. We're going to come back at the end, and Caitlin is still available to take your questions. And we're going to move on to thinking about things differently. We're going to completely change the subject on you right now and get off of sanitation and talk, because we are going to go back to that though. Part 2 on Friday, right, Michael?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There will be time for that. But we did want to make sure that we gave you the resources you needed to think about things other than sanitation for the spa. One of the things that I mentioned that Kelly and I were talking about over the last couple of weeks was she's, we have so many friends in the spa industry that say, ugh, I never liked this skincare line. I inherited it when I got here and it never left. Or I used to carry it, I used to love it. I've started using Circadia now, but I still have this one product left, and my estheticians won't let me get rid of it. As we know, it takes 20 days to break a habit. It's been about 45. So if you wanted to do anything that you've been meaning to do, or that get rid of anything that you've been meaning to get rid of, it's a now or never situation. Hopefully, it's a never any other time situation.
Hopefully never, ever, ever again situation.
Right. So this is just a place for you to kind of brainstorm, and we've given you some different things to brainstorm about looking at your own business differently. So whether that is the team, is everyone in the right position in your spa? Has anyone excelled at something that you didn't necessarily hire them at, and you just haven't pivoted them to the right position? I know I've done that actually in my own business. I had someone in the warehouse who has the gift of gab, and I threw her in sales. She's been your customer service agent for the last couple of weeks. She's amazing. So it's just things like that. It's just now's the time to take a clean look and step back. I know, Michael, you've been doing this too, right? With your, you've been spending some time outside of the office and just kind of looking in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and not to get too ahead of some of the great points that you're going to make here, but I mean, this has really forced myself, and I think most business owners to take a look at how we're doing everything and get refamiliarized with your business. So, I've had to go and pack boxes. It's the first thing that I started doing in 2004 when I started with Circadia, and it's very reminiscent of what happened when I took over Circadia in 2006 and 2007, and then we had the economic collapse in 2008.
Right.
So, I've had these emotions before, but to take a look at it and have this happen so quickly, and to look around and have so many friends and colleagues be affected by it at the same time, but to be able to rely on them, to look at, friends that are in the industry and talk to them and have them call me and to call them just to say, hey, what are you doing? It's been great. So to like you said, to look at the team that you've got and see who's stepping up. I mean, who's shining. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we've had to furlough our team. I mean, our revenue has been slashed to a fraction of what it was the previous year, and we're set to have the second. Our best month ever for the second time this year, so the what could have been is something that I've had to let go of and then focus on the what will be. So everything that you've got here, and I'll stop now. But it's really forced us to take a look, but I could not be more proud of my team because they have stepped up in every way, well beyond my expectation and the measure. And some have done things that I never thought that they would be a good fit for. So that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Deb, is there anything that you've thought of that you wanted to do or try out or start or stop in your own spa?
Well, I'm definitely going to add some body treatments.
Awesome.
Yeah, I am facials are my true love. I can't think of anything that I love to do more, but with everything going on, I just feel like we need to add some body treatments. That way, if we have people coming in who are afraid of, being without a mask, they can still have a treatment, wear a mask, and don't have to worry as much. So that is definitely something that I am looking into. And
Hannah, tell her we've got protocols for that.
We got protocols for that.
Yes,
we have a Decate anti-aging enhancement CBD protocol, Deb.
I know you do.
Another thing, actually, you made me think of too, that I'm actually working on and I'll have out this weekend is again, this goes with enhancements as well as theatrical cleaning, kind of, is hand and foot treatment to do extra cleansing, right? Maybe you offer it before the treatment or during the treatment while you're waiting for the mask to dry. I have a fine CBD scrub and then a brush-on mask that's waterless, and so then you remove it by just massaging the feet. So it's pretty cool. But I'll post that after the weekend for sure. Suzanne, have you heard of any really cool things, or have you thought of things yourself or for the association that you've been meaning to get to that you want to get to now?
Oh gosh.
Because you're not busy enough, Suzanne. What
we don't have the time to go through it. We've got, for us, it's mainly technology. We have, I've hired new tech people to create a mobile site that's more accessible, integrating the LMS that we've built, bringing on I'm working on a long-term education project with Terry Wojak, who, most of you know is just brilliant. So we're kind of nerding out right now on skin science. And,
that's awesome.
Michael knows me. So us skin nerds are having fun with some of that. But awesome. I find I've been so buried with all this legislative and advocacy stuff that I found that my love of education has been put on the back burner. So that's now front and center.
I mean, the good news is that we're all going through this complete pause and we are all rebooting. Mm-hmm. So now it's who is doing what their reboot? Like, how are you taking your reboot, and it's our opportunity to take everything to the next level. So I won't go through all of this because this is something that everyone can kind of look at and go, yeah, what am I doing here? whether it's, well, I need more uniforms, so we've been wanting to get new Noel Asmar uniforms, you know, like whatever it is, you know, what is it that you're gonna do? What's the new you moving forward is kind of the point here. And with that, though, comes some different guidelines, again, because you have employees, or Deb, you have spa mates. So everything is about being agile, being honest, being transparent. We all know there's a lot going into rebooting. It's going to take new training. It's going to take the certifications. And we all need to just make sure that everyone is prepared. So it's like, now you've come back, you've got all these requirements, all this new cleaning you have to do, all these great new ideas you want to implement. But now it's like, you've got to make sure that you give yourself and your team the time to be ready for you to open up the doors. A couple of ideas we had here was talking about just getting them on board with a new vision, the new mission. You know, they are going to come back and you don't have that one mask that you've kept for them. What are we talking about? Again, I feel, and again, I don't work with, I don't have employees in this spa, but I think everyone's going to be so happy to be back that they'll forget some things. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. Because we were making hand sanitizer, we were deemed an essential business, right? We're a cosmetic manufacturer, but we pivoted to be able to do that. So we stayed open for a couple weeks, and we had to furlough a good chunk of our sales team because, again, all the businesses were closed. But we pivoted and we were able to stay connected to our spa professional partners and provide them with home care treatments. And the message was, look, we're going to help you market to your consumers, even though you're closed. Use this at-home staycation facial, which, those of you that haven't seen it, we've got it out there all over the place. Use this staycation facial to stay in contact with your customer. It's a trickle of the revenue that you're used to, but it'll keep their skin in good condition. It'll allow you to stay connected with them. Do that. So it kept the warehouse open. It kept the warehouse going, but obviously no new openings, no large back bar orders that we're accustomed to, but our inside team was able to be there. But at one point I thought, okay, we're making hand sanitizer, we have this, but it's not essential for this team to be here. So ethically I had to say, look guys, I've got to have you work from home. You're going to have to work from home. They didn't want to go home. None of them wanted to. And I have an incredible crew, an absolutely incredible dedicated crew. They're ready to come back. They're ready to come back right now. But as non-essential businesses go, they're not going to be able to come back, and I'm not going to have them come back till probably the end of May. So, but when they come back, I'm going to make sure that we have, just like the spas have a plan, that we have a plan for them to be able to come back safely. So I think, all of these things that we're talking about here, that we're talking about going back to the spa, it's how are we actually going to make sure that we're doing the same thing in this office, in this business setting? And I think most skincare brands are probably the same. So Those are things that we're going to have to do to make sure that we get it right to be able to supply products to the spa industry as well. So, and there's a lot of logistical things that you have to look at as kind of just going down the path, the food chain, so to speak, is how we operate this industry.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, we have also included in the Dropbox a sign-off sheet, because when you require your employees to start cleaning, there might be some employees that have never cleaned before, but they do need to know this is a requirement going forward to protect themselves, their spa, your clients, and the liability. And there's a sign-off sheet for your employees in the Dropbox. Again, this is just a template. Please review it with your own HR person, your own counsel. But it's something just to remind you that you do need to have your employees sign off on this going forward. I'm sure their job duties are changing at least a little bit. So we'll go into that. I know Suzanne, you had been telling us a little bit between the employer and the licensee.
Right. Yeah, kind of what I mentioned on the liability. If you're the employer or you own the spa and have licensed employees, you as the employer obviously need to follow your state guidelines, which is your governor's executive order. In some executive orders, like here in Colorado, the governor kind of deferred to the counties as well. So
Right.
certain counties in Denver opened up, or actually more rural, because what we had as well is our Denver mayor making stronger recommendations than the governor. I mean, my head wants to explode after
Right.
these last 2 months.
The same thing in California.
Yeah, right. So everybody's doing something different, but you need to, this is a perfect time to start to get aware of what your relationship is with your government as a business owner, not just our scope. So if you own the business and you have licensees must follow their state board of cosmetology. We can lose our license if we don't follow those guidelines. Some state boards are saying follow, you know, your state guidelines. It's kind of a mess, but make sure that you know what those two entities are recommending, because that's where your liability comes down. If you're an owner operator, obviously you know both sides, but with the employees, there's also employment law that the owner must
Right.
follow.
Right.
And this, I would have to say, this disaster, I don't know what else to call it, has brought to light a lot of illegal employment situations, and a lot of those are going to go away.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, there's some dark sides to our industry that are coming to light, and we're going to come out stronger and better on the other side. So just be really aware of where you fall within those jurisdictions.
And Suzanne, I know you have a meeting this afternoon, right?
Yeah, in fact, 10 minutes. I gotta
Okay.
get on another meeting. So
Yeah.
you know,
Now,
there's-
who's you meeting with, and what are you guys discussing now? I know you can't give us major details.
yeah,
But I want to share with the
can't-
audience, because I know that you're coming back for part 2. I'm trying to brag about how awesome you are on our call here today. Suzanne.
So, oh, okay. We're doing a lot of stuff on the back end with different state boards and different, a good friend of mine is Leslie Rosti, who's an amazing human being, and she's also a microbiologist, but you know her as being the Barbicide Director of Education. And so
Right.
I've been working with Leslie on a lot of things that get transferred over to the state board. Some boards are on top of it, some are waiting for our guidance. So things like this are really important because it all goes into the discussion. And then
Okay.
of course, you know, anytime rules are implemented, it has to go through a process with your state board. So I think there's some executive decisions that are going to be made by your board administrators to figure out
Okay.
how to direct you to what to do. So there's a lot of those backroom conversations that are going on that aren't, you know, be out there on social media, only because of the legalities around it and the fact that honestly, we don't know. I mean, like Michael keeps saying, mitigate risk. You know, this is not, we can't say you're going to go back and be safe. And I wish I could,
Right.
but we can't.
Right.
So that's what a lot of
Well,
that
we
is about.
appreciate you so much. If you have to sign off, you go right ahead. I know that Michael's
I
going to be
do.
talking to you on Friday. You're going to be back for part 2. You're going to share with what you're allowed to share with us, and talking a lot with Michael on part 2. So
Yes.
we're going to let you sign off. We're going to just move
Okay.
on to some fun marketing stuff now.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Suzanne. I
guys.
appreciate it. We'll chat a little bit later on. Have a
Yeah,
great
we'll
call.
chat. Okay,
Thank
talk
you.
to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, Caitlin, before we move on to marketing, do you have any questions for anyone?
We do. We have quite a few questions about Friday's webinar again. So George, I know that you're going to take over here in a minute when we go through our resources. If you wouldn't mind just detailing out the link for Friday's webinar, it's going to be at the same time starting at 12:30 Eastern Standard on Friday. And really a lot of the remaining questions that we have regarding protocols, different modalities, how to use them, how to incorporate them, if you're even allowed to incorporate them, those will all be addressed in Friday's webinar. And then we'll also be giving quite a bit more detail on the verification that Suzanne was talking about. So we had plenty of questions come in and a lot of interest there. So if that was your question, we will be addressing it on Friday. There was a quick question, and Michael, this will probably be best for you. If there's not an option to change your uniform between each client, is Lysol or other disinfectants still an option?
You know, I can't say with any relative certainty on that one. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I don't know if it's a good idea to do that, and I don't know if it would even work. So I cannot answer that. I don't have the cred to answer that one. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
And then as far as a COVID-19 questionnaire, I know this is going to be covered in the resource portion of our landing page, but are there any suggestions on questions that should be added, or any questions that should be added to just standard intake forms?
You know what? That is a great question. I'm not sure Hannah has any of the. If anyone has had COVID-19 and recovered from COVID-19 and what the time period is, I would suspect that should be added. I'm not sure if that's been added to any health questionnaires as of yet. Has it?
Yeah, we'll go over the intake form when we go over resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think that's what all the questions that we had. Majority is things that will be covered on Friday.
All right. Well, George, did you take my controls away?
I have not yet, but if you want to stop sharing your screen, I can share mine.
Okay. So on the last page of this ebook, we have a resources page, and for some reason I couldn't flip to it, but that's okay, because we're also going to show you pretty much the same information that is on the landing page for Circadia. We have created all kinds of stuff for you guys because you just need them. So I'm going to be making even more of them over the next couple of days. If anyone sees any that they think I'm missing, please let me know, or let Caitlin or George or anybody know, and I will work on it. George, if you could go scroll down a little bit, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to mention, so this information that Hannah's going to go through, it's going to be on the Circadia website as a separate landing page. So it's circadia.com/relaunch. And just note that this is going to be constantly evolving. There's constantly going to be adding additional content to this. But this is just kind of a good start with a lot of the stuff that our panelists went through today. One thing I do want to mention is we did talk about our upcoming webinar that is going to be the part 2 to the comeback. So if you wanted to register, that is going to be the very first button that you see on top of this page, and that will take you right to the Zoom registration link on there as well. The next kind of resources I want to kind of just show the way to kind of operate these before Hannah gets kind of detailed on them. These are going to be all downloadable PDF files that you can download. After you download it, you can print it, use it for social, anywhere that you need to utilize this information. You just click the download button. Once you click the download, it's going to save it onto your computer, and then you'll have access to utilize this content and this information as well. Hannah, did you want to go through these different categories that we have here on the downloads?
George, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt real quick, but this is on the back page. So the estheticians have to be, do they have to be registered, verified licensure to see this?
No, so you don't actually have to be registered or even part of the Circadia family to access this.
Great.
You just have to have that hyperlink, which is circadia.com/relaunch. So we did want to make this information accessible to everybody that's in our industry, not just someone that just partners with Circadia.
Wonderful.
Right, right. And there's also going to be a link for the certification that Suzanne talked about that we're going to add to this page tomorrow with the release of the ebook, which the ebook is everything we talked about. You can just click print and go through it. George, can I look at the door signs again? Just the one that you already had up. I think it's right here on the top.
There you go.
So this is the scary COVID plain thing that you see everybody has on their doors. We just made it pretty for you. Made it more spa-like. And so this comes in a couple of different versions. But again, it's warning you, if you have these symptoms, do not come in. We added a cute little no hug sorry, because I think that's what we're all dying to hug our clients. But that's, again, we just made it pretty for you. The promotional signs, yeah, we can go over that next. These are just different things that you can use if it's what you want to do. My personal opinion is you should not be discounting any service. But like Deb, you talked about, well, I've never done enhancements before, so now I'm going to offer an enhancement. Hey, if you want to offer a percentage off an enhancement, something brand new to your client, then this is the time to do it. If you want to create packages, there's lots of people who said, why have I never offered waxing packages. We come in every month, or facial packages. We come in every month. Then we've kind of given you some of those just to spur on those ideas. This is for the retail area. Do not put the clothing back on the rack because, again, as we talked about, we're going to steam them and let them sit for 6 hours. But we need to let our clients know we can't be out in the retail department as soon as they walk in. This is a little signage for, we've removed the testers, but we have some samples for you behind the desk. So then you won't have a bunch of empty shelves when your clients come in, but really cute little signage everywhere. Oh yeah, these are really good. This is for the, just different ideas, again, that you can put around the theatricalness of it all, that this room has been sanitized. And you can put this anywhere, and I've put it in all kinds of different looks so that it matches your spa, okay? You can keep going down there. This one is my favorite, if you can go up, because it kind of lists out everything. These are all PDFs. They're all 8.5 by 11, so they're very easy for you to print out and use in your own spa. Just pick the one that you like the best, okay? And again, we've put them in all kinds of different looks so that we can skip that one, George, because that one is the iSpa reopening checklist. Just download it. Everyone should just download that one. It has essentially like your checkoff list for every single room in your spa. And then this is the ebook, which we're actually going to update with a couple more links. And that'll be up tomorrow, but it's everything we talked about today. I think there's one more for amenities, George. I just wanted to show real quick. These are a couple of examples of the social media posts. So these have been I formatted them for Instagram and Facebook. You can just copy them and paste them right on. Again, 97% are saying your clients are asking, what are you doing to keep me safe? And so these are some great posts that you can just go ahead and throw out there on your social media posts to let your clients know what you've been doing in your own spa. Okay. Again, feel free to use these wherever you want. We're making these for you, or make your own. We just wanted to give you some ideas and so that you can put it out there and reassure your clients. There's a few other downloads that we're missing, but again, these will all be updated tomorrow. One will be a complete Dropbox download that will also include the templates for the employee sign-off sheet, as well as the sheet for the clients to sign when they come in for the intake form, okay, to let them know the risk that's being there and to cover you for liability. Again, the other one is the employee sheet, knowing that there's new job responsibilities involved as being an employee. With that, I want to thank Deb so much for participating, Kelly, Suzanne. They've been so awesome and such a huge resource for us. I just so appreciate your perspective. Michael, letting me play the hostess with the mostest. Thank you.
You are indeed the hostess with the mostest.
And I'm going to throw back to you. Your turn.
Well, I mean, what an incredible job, Hannah. Thank you so much. I mean, you truly were the driving force behind all of this. I mean, I think you really grabbed what was on everybody's mind and helped to put this together in a way that I never dreamed that it could have come together. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the resource partners who supplied us with the information. Everybody, again, from iSpa to Florida Spa Association to Southeast Spa Association. We could have not have done it without the people that you have brought together and presented. Thank you to the panelists, Deb, Kelly. Thank you, Suzanne. Of course, my team, George, Caitlin, for putting it all together. It's just incredible. And for everybody who's been there watching, you know, we want you to feel secure going back to work. We know that this is just an unprecedented, difficult time. It's been months. We know you're ready to get back to work, but we want you to get back to work as safely as you possibly can. And we know that some of what we've been able to present here today is going to help you to do just that. Definitely come back for part two. Come back for part two on Friday. We're going to detail out the protocol as best as we possibly can. We're going to be talking about different modalities, what should possibly be done, what should definitely be avoided, and of course the sanitation and sanitation verification, verification that Suzanne has put together, which is just an incredible additional credential that I think all estheticians are going to want and the knowledge that they should have. So again, thank you all so much for participating. It's a new day. Stay safe, be well, and tune into us with us on Friday. Thank you all so much for being here. Till
Thank
next time.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.